Welcome to the Backyard Empire Podcast, powered by Landscape and Hardscape Contractor Marketing, where we spotlight the stories, strategies, and standout voices shaping the green industry. Whether they're building outdoor living spaces or building the future of the industry, we've got the insights right here. Now, here's your host, Josh Blakeley.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Backyard Empire Podcast. I'm joined today by Lindsay Ono, who is the CLCA president, the California Landscape Contractors Association president, as well as the professor of environmental horticulture at Bakersfield College. And I've got Lindsay on here. He's just going to be a wealth of information for anyone in the industry, business owners, particularly with the association focus. And I know we're going to get into some other things in terms of what the Bakersfield College and other community colleges offer as well. But first of all, welcome, Lindsay. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you very much, Josh. It's an honor to be here. It's great to talk about the industry itself and all of the different things that are going on with the California Landscape Contractors Association as well.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Well, let's start at the beginning. I find that's a good place to begin. So how did you get into the landscape industry?
Well, actually, I grew up in a landscape family. So I started when I was a toddler, basically rummaging through the piles of Kellogg's potting soil and playing hide and seek out there and learning my plants as I grew, and just like any family business, you start to get into the business by Dad says you have to go to work this weekend. So it's like, oh, okay. So we start to learn the business and the ins and outs of some of the aspects. And that's really one of the keys, is that I've been in horticulture and the landscape and nursery industry my entire life.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I know you were telling me just before, your dad owned a landscaping business. So he put you to work. Is that, yeah.
He was a small business, but it was at a time when things were much simpler than what they are today. And so having that experience really does make a difference on how we learn and how we grow. And this is probably the biggest challenge. One of the drawbacks of my landscape background is the fact that I was pushed into the business really young, like basically right out of Cal Poly. And so my dad had some health issues, but he didn't have really the great time to train me about some of the nuances of being a business owner. And so I never lost money, but I wasn't making a whole lot for myself. And this is where some of those relationships that I have now today with CLCA and with our local chapters is that you learn from your mistakes. And this is really one of the things that a lot of people don't know about, is the fact that, the most important thing in business is not being afraid to ask for help. And this is where the association really shines, is that we have a lot of people with knowledge and wealth that can make the difference between a company that is going to be growing or a company that's going to be subsisting or a company that's in the red.
Yeah, that's such a common theme. It's easy if you're just trying to do it all yourself, like you just don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah. And that's the problem. You don't realize how poorly you're doing it until you see others that have gone through it and can actually walk you through the process.
Yeah.
And this is really one of the big keys, is that we do have a lot of people, a mentorship program, for example, that will help people struggle through and help them over those hurdles. And that's really the big key.
Yeah. And how did you get connected in with that? How did you get connected with CLCA?
Well, actually, I was part of the restart of the Kern County chapter, and they brought me in because I was actually teaching for Bakersfield College at that time. And so my interest was twofold, actually. I did want to connect up with industry, but also to grow my program. And this is one of the advantages that I had being local with them. And when you look at the industry, it offers so much more than just a way to do business, but it gives you that ability to learn more. And by the time they started up, I was actually an educator and learning more about the industry, but also learning how to apply it for my students. And
Sure.
because of that challenge, I was able to connect up with professionals that knew what was happening. And this really does make a big difference, but more so for connecting my students to possible employees and to job careers that can last a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. Did that exist back when you were a kid? That opportunity? Because I know we're going to talk about some of the pathways and the internship offerings and things there, but tell me how things have changed since then.
Well, when I was in the industry itself, we didn't have a local chapter, and I did not realize how to get into some of these aspects of business itself. To be honest, I was just a little bit too proud to ask for help. But also I was really young, so I also did not have the work ethic that I do now that really drives. And that's really one of the challenges that a lot of people today, the maturity to understand what they need to do to get through those hurdles. And so I didn't want to use up all my dad's savings and go through life and at a lower scale. So I moved on to other things and learned more
Yep.
about horticulture and the business and getting into different aspects. And then I eventually got into a job where I was a adjunct instructor. And that adjunct instructor job got me connected up. And then I eventually became a professor for Bakersfield College full time. And that's
Right.
where I really learned that I love teaching. I
Yeah.
love showing the students the amazing things that plants can do, but also the amazing things that they can do when they can foresee and envision on paper just little shapes and squares and imagining a landscape design and then actually seeing that come to fruition. That's really one of the cases.
Yeah.
So it's it's really rewarding when students basically that light bulb goes on. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I understand it. And it's like I'm enjoying it. And that's what we really want to have is students that enjoy the career, but also excel because it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
And it's a great lifestyle.
Yeah. Lots of fresh air and sun and putting your creative ideas to work.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of
Yeah.
those students that realize that they don't want to be indoors the entire time. They
Yeah.
want to be outdoors and seeing what happens when the plants grow and they can see their vision coming to life.
Yeah.
And especially when it is a finished product, it does make a big difference.
That's great. What percentage of those students of yours or what that you've seen over your time teaching go on to start their own landscaping business? What does that look like, the business acumen side of things?
We see actually at Bakersfield College quite a few students that go into the industry. So it's either, Bakersfield is a big farmland country. So we're one of the top farm producing counties in the nation.
Yeah.
And when you look at that industry has lots of money and they're pulling a lot of my students away because they have some knowledge of how plants grow. But I also see quite a few that go into the nursery industry as well as a few that go into the landscape. And then some are just doing it for their backyard interest. And so we see
Yeah.
all sorts of students that are returning students, the older students that have gone into a career that find that it's really not for them to be in a traditional 9 to 5 business. They want to be something else or they want to be their own boss and learn how to do it properly. And this is really one of the things that we do is we do a hands-on experience. And that's where our labs come into play is learn by doing, just the Cal Poly way as well. And so I've taken that to heart being a Cal Poly grad. And there's nothing funner than being outdoors in my labs and creating new landscapes, putting in new construction, pruning on trees, and then basically seeing it bloom. So right now we're coming up into bloom season, and we've already cut some of our fruit trees, and we're starting to see the blossoms come out and emerge. And so I'm looking forward to a great harvest.
And yeah, what does that look like? I'm curious. Do you do a group project, or is it on campus? Do you have particular places where you're going to do maybe internship work for property or something like that?
We actually do a lot of on-campus projects here. So we
Yeah.
have an edible garden that we are growing right now. We're in a transition period at Bakersfield College with a new greenhouse just coming up to completion. We'll be moving into that next month, as well as some new grounds that we'll be playing on, and that's going to be the fun part for our classes. So it's a learn by doing. And here's one of the things, oftentimes they do groups, but we also realize that sometimes they don't always do it right because it's just the process of learning. Sometimes they have to learn how to fail. And
Yeah.
so I also let them go through that process, and we'll leave a few of those plants in place where they were buried too deep or they weren't planted properly. And then we'll discuss, why is this going to occur? What's going to happen to these plants? You know, the biggest thing that I find is that when we have students that fail, we have to walk them through a little bit slower than some of the others that have a better grasp. And so it's always an individual basis that they learn. And then
Right.
we also have the internship programs. We have some jobs on campus as well as internships available in the industry. And this is really that partnership that we're looking forward to, where students can actually learn how to do things under the mentorship of some of these bosses. So,
Yeah.
learning how to landscape, learning how to install, learning how to harvest plants, but also the ability to work with others. And so, the internships is a California wide program at the community colleges. So it's a great advantage for the landscapers and nursery people to actually find employees. And the one thing that we find is that they have a base knowledge, but our employers and the people that are in the internship programs will be able to guide them along with the specialties, the nuances of doing business, but also installing landscapes. And then by the time they get done, they're actually at the level of your crew chiefs or foreman, and they'll be ready to move up very quickly. But they'll also, because they've learned from you from the very beginning, know how you like to operate your crews. And
Yeah.
that's really an advantage for an employer.
Want to grow your outdoor living construction business? Get your free copy of Backyard Empire, the ultimate digital marketing guide for outdoor living pros at backyardempirebook.com. This is the Backyard Empire podcast. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, uh, I don't know too many programs like that. I know Bakersfield College really is at the forefront of that. What does that look like on a yearly basis? How many students, how many internship positions do you tend to have?
In our program itself, it'll vary depending on the discipline, but in horticulture, we generally have around 6 to 7 that
Yeah.
are in the process. Not a gigantic amount, but these are students that are wanting to know more. Now, we do
Yeah.
employ or we do educate a lot of students that also have other jobs. So they're already working in the industry and they don't necessarily need the credits.
Yeah, the right fit, I take it then, the people who really want to be out there doing it.
Yeah. And when you look at pest control advisors, we have that program here, and we have a lot of students that are crossovers from landscape to agricultural. And then they're also sent here by their bosses to take those classes so they can qualify to become a PCA, or at
Right.
least to understand the QALs, the qualified applicators. And so understanding the safety issues makes it much easier for them to send a crew out because they know what they need to do.
Thank you for sharing that. What for a company or a business in California who a landscaping company who might be looking to perhaps get involved in the program or be open to taking on those internships, what does that look like? What should they do?
Well, I would call their local community college to find out who has a horticulture program. There's
Yeah,
quite a few spread out throughout the state from San Diego all the way up to the Oregon border. And when you look at your local community college, probably the first thing to do is to be a professional advisor for their programs. All of
yeah,
our community colleges that have career technical education are required to have industry advisors. And so I have probably 8 from my local region here that are my advisors that I go to and I ask, what are we doing right? What do we need to change? What do we need to adapt to? And then I also use them as sources for field trips as well as lectures.
yeah,
And that's where the connection with the students comes in, is that they can actually be introduced on a personal basis. And that's where they're not afraid to ask for a job. Or
got it.
you'll see as an employer, the students that are excelling, and you can ask them, hey, would you like to come work for us? Because we have this great opportunity for you to grow as well as to learn. And that's where the connection comes in. Now, for an employer, the project itself to be an intern is very easy to sign up for, but it could be a paid or a non-paid position.
Okay,
And here's the thing that they don't always tell you is that for the non-paid positions, they can also take care of the insurance for the student that they're working with. So that becomes a
got it.
big benefit for many of these employers, is that, yeah, I'm a small crew, but I can't afford to pay them, but they can work for free and they have to do 60 hours of employment for that one unit and non-paid, or 75 hours of paid employment. And the advantage for the employment itself is minimum wage. And so that can work out very nicely. But also when we look at our ability to help them out, well, that gets their foot in the door and they can really make a difference.
Yeah,
And that cost savings of the workman's comp and the insurance that the school covers is significant.
yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. Sounds like a great opportunity there for sure. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing details around that, the internship and the journey there. Did you have anything else to add? Otherwise, I wanted to kind of really focus in on some of the CLCA side of your
Okay.
journey and position as well.
One of the other things is that it's not only open to um, businesses, it's also could be opened up to nonprofit organizations as well.
Got it.
So many of these other programs that are out there, you might want to have somebody, and it does not have to be a horticultural specialist. It could be a business person as well for your offices, or it can be a computer specialist, or it could be somebody that works with automation. We have all sorts of things that are available through the community colleges. So don't limit yourself on just one major. Think about
Yeah.
across your entire business. Who can you get,
Yeah.
or who do you
Yeah.
need to fit the bill?
Yeah. Great. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, yeah, let's dive into the CLCA side of things. So I know recently you've stepped into the president position for the CLCA. Tell me about your journey through that organization, and I know you touched on it at the start of this, but what have you seen, the contributions, how it's affecting other businesses, the benefits there? We are CLCA members. That's how we met. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your journey and your perspective on that.
Stay with us. More industry insights coming up on the Backyard Empire podcast.
Well, I started in with my educational component and basically starting as the chapter education director was where I got my start. And then I moved up to the state level as a education committee member. And then I was director for education for a number of years and moved up the ranks from there. But basically, when you look at my movement through CLCA, it's been really quite fun. I love the educational components that CLCA does. And one of our best programs that we have is the Certified Water Managers
Mm.
program. And so a lot of people, not only in the landscape industry, but also in the water services and water management, are finding that that's a real good program to get into. So becoming certified as a water manager, understanding how water is used, but even still with the challenges of California water, we have to be able to use it wisely. And this is an area where a lot of municipalities are really finding that they have to have people that are trained water managers. And so we offer those classes for the different regions, especially down in Southern California, where it's the largest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so other things that we find is that we're constantly looking at different ways to educate, and through our webinars is a real great way to learn about CLCA, but also to learn about your business. Some of the recent ones that we've held is like the Core 2.0, which is basically the battery operated engines and the rebate system through the state and
Yeah.
through CARB. And so that one is a great opportunity for everybody to get some money for their machinery and their power equipment, but also getting it at a discount. And that really does make a big difference for especially smaller companies, but even large companies still qualify as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a massive advantage to looking at that now. I know it's California specific, but there's probably other programs out there as well. But that
Well,
that's
that's one of the
yeah,
is that it is becoming a nationwide spread. So
yeah,
understanding what machinery that you have, but the feds have actually approved the concept of going to battery operated machinery throughout the
good.
nation. And so we're going to start to see a transition where states will start to adopt these depending on how large those states are. I think we'll see it
Yeah,
definitely happen in larger municipalities.
yeah, yeah. Great. Okay, I know. Well,
And
there's straight up one advantage there, and that education around there, and yeah, we do get to ourselves present, and I get to present for the marketing side of things on the CLCA webinars, but there is resource after resource of every kind of facet and area of business. That's one of the things we noticed straight away when we joined.
yeah.
There's a lot of value in that, and obviously being a member. Tell us about some of the member benefits as well.
Yeah. One of the areas that a lot of people don't take advantage of, even our members, is our associate member sites that have educational components. So a lot of times we see a new product on the market and we wonder about it, but maybe we don't know exactly how to properly install it. And this is really one of the advantages is that you can go to those websites in our library and actually pull up some of the training videos from those companies. So you can be very specific on here's one on an irrigation clock and it's specific to this company. And here's another one on the backflow preventers and it's specific to that company and their product. And this is really what makes a big difference on being able to service your customers is to be able to do it right. And we all know
Yeah,
the problems when our employees put it in incorrectly or trying to troubleshoot because they put something on backwards or they misaligned something and it just didn't go in right. That's a lot of money out of our pocket because we have to do it twice.
yeah,
And the other problem is that we have to find where it was in the first place. And so it's not always easily found and viewed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another area of CLCA that makes a difference is our challenge with legislation. We have a organization that constantly monitors the legislative bills going through the state and looking at what they're doing in Sacramento and how it affects our businesses.
Hmm.
And I believe they said there was probably, I think I'm going to be short on this, probably around 8,000 different bills that have gone through that have
Wow.
been proposed for California. And out of those 8,000, 2,000 actually are in relationship to California businesses. And so that affects us. And so some of the things are like the air pollution laws, how we do business, and that can make a big difference on what is allowed and what is not allowed.
Want to grow your outdoor living construction business? Get your free copy of Backyard Empire, the ultimate digital marketing guide for outdoor living pros at backyardempirebook.com. This is the Backyard Empire Podcast. Let's get back to it.
There was a bill that was going through that we felt was a very big problem. In concept, it's a nice concept. The bill was about California natives, and California natives, as we know in California, would be water conservative. But the problem is that they only allowed California natives on this bill. And number one, we don't have enough nurseries to supply California natives to the landscape industry. And number two, California is so diverse in climate that natives that grow in Southern California are not the same natives that will grow in Northern California or the
Yeah.
Central Valley. And so being so diverse, you can't just limit yourself to one. And so we were able to actually look for that and monitor that to make sure that it did not go through. But the CLCA still supports responsible planting of landscape plants. And so we recommend the Mediterranean climate plants and California natives that will actually be adaptable to your region.
Yeah.
And so when you get our region, we have so many different climates and ecosystems that there's something for everybody. And that's really the case, is that you can have great landscapes with very little effort and very little water when it's done right.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that. And my next question is around, what would you say to a landscaping business owner who's trying to go to the next level? I know at the beginning of the call you touched on mentorship. We've looked at some of the internship side of things, the legislation, education components of being a part of an association like the CLCA. Um, Anything else you'd like to add to the business owner who'd be listening to this?
Well, we have a number of courses that go through the system every once in a while. And so, like, how to do better at business, and we have the business courses that you can
Yeah.
learn from. But also, we have some companies that also have different marketing tools on how to be more efficient at keeping track of the bottom line, looking at
Yeah.
the spreadsheets, knowing what to count. This is really those hidden costs of doing business that we don't count, that we should be counting, and this is where we're losing our profits. When you look at a new business, I would say also look at other other companies, and see what they're doing right. One thing I wish I had done when my dad put me in charge was, I wish I had worked for somebody else before I took over the business. The reason why is you see one side only, but you don't see the other side of doing business. And that might be where you can actually gain some insights about how to do things better.
Yeah.
I would also look at training your employees, going to some of these seminars that the local chapters have and the trainings that they have. Don't just bring the top echelon, but bring the employees to some of those as well. I did a
Yeah.
trimming seminar the other day, and I was actually surprised at how many people got a lot out of that when to me, it's very basic, but to them, understanding the whys you trim, where you trim, or understanding how things grow as a result of what happens if I did it wrong, that
Yeah.
really does make a big difference.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, well, look, thanks for sharing that. There's a lot of insights, a lot of wisdom there, and you've seen so much of the industry, different areas of the business side, the education side, the association side. So thank you for sharing. I mean, I think it goes without saying after hearing Lindsay discuss now, like if you're in California, like the CLCA is an amazing resource for you, particularly the chapters, the local chapters, and we're in the San Diego chapter. If you're not in California, like go check out the associations in your different states as well, because there's so much
Y-
value to be had from that.
Josh, the biggest thing that you get out of becoming a member of your local association is that you make friends. And it's those friends that are going to be there for a lifetime, but also it's those friends that you can confide in. They are not competitors. They are your neighbors and your friends that will say, hey, here's how I do it.
Yeah,
Why don't you try it this way? Or here's what I think you should do because I can see where it's not quite working out for you.
yeah,
And that makes a big difference. So I have friends all the way across the state now that I've been in the CLCA, and it does make a big difference for everybody in business. It's that networking effect that we get from meeting others, and it's a lifelong joy that you can actually have a great lifetime membership with. And so it just does not stop when you retire.
yeah, yeah. And that was one of the things that actually struck me at the last convention. Um, and it was actually the first one we'd been to. Is a lot of the people they'd been in there for a really long time, and had this history together. And like you said, you've got people you can confide in, and you're helping each other out. It's not like there's not enough to go round scarcity mindset. It's all about helping each other and networking that way.
Yeah, and that reminds me of a company here in Bakersfield. They had received a bid for a very large industrial park, but their crews were not big enough to handle the quantity of jobs. So they talked with one of our other members and they sent their crews to work with them as subcontractors. And so it helped out both companies
Yeah,
install a huge operation in a very short time period. And this is really one of those things that happens with friendships.
great example. Okay, well, thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much for being on the Backyard Empire podcast and sharing your wisdom and experience there. There's a lot in it, and we really appreciate you being on here.
All right. It's been wonderful being here, Josh. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Backyard Empire podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our landscape and hardscape contractor marketing YouTube channel to get the latest episodes and stay updated on the latest marketing trends in the industry. Get your free copy of the Backyard Empire book at backyardempirebook.com and list your business for free on our online directory for outdoor living contractors, outdoorspaceshq.com. Thanks for listening. Keep building your empire.